Workers at the UK's largest container port are set to walk out, joining thousands of others across the country striking for better pay as the cost of living continues to rise.
A cargo ship carrying Ukrainian grain docks in Ireland as UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres inspects another vessel in Istanbul.
Another explosion is reported at the HQ of Russia's Black Sea Fleet in Crimea, with the Sevastopol governor claiming to have struck down a drone.
Greece is regaining control of its economy as the EU ends its enhanced surveillance policy almost 15 years after the country plunged into a financial crisis.
More than 1,900 workers at the UK's largest container port, Felixstowe, are set to walk out on Sunday for the start of an 8-day strike. The action parallels thousands of other workers across the UK, campaigning for better pay as the cost of living continues to rise. On Saturday, only 1 in 5 UK trains are expected to run, as more than 45,000 workers call for better pay and job security.
There is an offer on the table from Network Rail, which is 50% of our members. It's a 3-year pay deal at 8%, and that'll have to cover next year as well as this year and last year. Inflation this week on the retail price index was 12.3. So if we accepted that pay offer, we would be getting about a quarter of next year's inflation, which is likely to be 15 or 16%. So our members aren't prepared to accept that.
The strikes have received mixed responses from the general public, as most of London's underground tube stations will not run because of a separate strike. And the disruptions have put a stop to some weekend travel.
Yes, I do feel sympathy for them. However, there's got to be another way because the disruption is phenomenal all over the country. It means you can't get anywhere.
And some argued that the strikes will affect some more than others.
I'm glad that people have the chance to make that point, but of course it's us suffering and not the guy going to work in their limos and black cap.
The strike comes as inflation in the UK has reached 10.1%, a 40-year high, and an increasing number of people are struggling to pay for the rising cost of food and energy. Other workers, such as lawyers, British telecom staff and postal workers, have also announced walkouts.
A bulk carrier packed with 33,000 tonnes of Ukrainian grain has arrived at its destination. Thanks to a deal brokered by Turkey and the United Nations last month, 27 cargo ships have finally left the Black Sea's ports. The Navy Star sailed into Foynes on the River Shannon and is the first vessel to make the voyage from Ukraine to Ireland since the war began. Meanwhile, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres inspected the World Food Programme's ship bound for the Horn of Africa in Istanbul on Saturday.
But let's not forget that what we see here in Istanbul and in Odessa is only the more visible part of the solution. The other part of this package deal is the unimpeded access to the global markets of Russian food and fertilizer, which are not subject to sanctions. It is important that all governments and the private sector cooperate, bringing them to market. Without fertilizer in 2022, there may not be enough food in 2023.
Guterres also said he is working hard with the EU and the US to overcome shipping, insurance and financial obstacles in order to prevent a global food crisis. He praised the Joint Coordination Centre in the Turkish capital for its efforts monitoring these much-needed deliveries.
A Russian-appointed governor in Sevastopol in Crimea claims its defence shot down a drone circulating its Black Sea headquarters. Governor Mikhail Razvoltsayev told Telegram there was no significant damage or injuries, asking people to remain calm, that the city is under control and that authorities carried out operational services. The headquarters was subject to an attack back on July 31st, where explosives hit the premises, injuring 6 people in the process. Traditionally, Russia celebrates its Navy Day at the end of July, but festivities were quickly halted. In Russia, Defense Ministry spokesman Igor Konashenkov says that more than 100 militants, including 20 so-called US mercenaries, were killed in a high-precision airstrike by the Russian aerospace forces near Avdiivka in Ukraine's Kharkiv region. Next Wednesday, however, marks Ukraine's Independence Day, where the country broke away from the Soviet Union in 1991. As part of those celebrations this year, destroyed Russian tanks are being displayed in Kiev ahead of August 24th.
Almost 15 years after Greece plunged into a financial crisis, the country is regaining control of its economy as the European Union ends its enhanced surveillance policy. The bloc had carried out quarterly assessments of Greece's public finances in exchange for debt relief payments after the nation suffered a huge recession from 2009.
These last 3 years constitute, in practice, a response to the lessons of the last 12 years. They show the way that we never, ever go back to what we have lived through. They forge our self-awareness, and they urge us to move ahead united, armed with the truth and realistic solutions.
The end of the EU's enhanced surveillance will allow Greece greater freedom over its budget, as it, along with the rest of Europe, struggles with the rising cost of living and energy prices. However, the country will continue to pay back loans until 2070.
Austria is experiencing extremely heavy rainfall. In the west of the country, like here in Wolfurt, meteorologists reported record amounts of rainfall in the past 24 hours. Firefighters and locals alike are working tirelessly to pick up fallen trees and clear flooded roads, as best they can. Over 1,500 mudslides were recorded, making the cleanup job even more difficult. These mudslides led to numerous flooding of villages and roads. A large section of the A14 motorway along the Rhine Valley had to be closed for many hours, causing motorists to take alternative routes in the severe conditions. Rainfall did stop around midnight, and luckily no injuries have been reported.
After a bloody 30-hour ordeal, Somali forces claim that they have ended a siege of a hotel in the country's capital. At least 13 civilians were killed at the start of the attack by the al-Qaeda-linked military group Al-Shabaab. The attackers originally entered the building after detonating bombs and opening fire, trapping people inside the hotel. Officials say they were able to rescue dozens of people, but it is unknown how many people were still trapped at the end of the siege.
Thousands of people took to the streets of Santiago on Saturday to voice their support for Chile's new constitution. On the 4th of September, more than 15 million Chileans will vote on the proposed draft, which, if approved, will turn the country into a full democracy. However, researchers say the motion to reject the changes is leading in the polls. The new document, composed by 154 elected citizens, seeks to replace the current 1980 charter written by the dictator Augusto Pinochet. China has declared its first drought emergency of the year. This community reservoir in Chongqing has all but evaporated. The giant Yangtze River serves as a lifeline for farms and businesses in the area, but it too is disappearing. This farmer says he is now pumping groundwater, but it is not enough to keep his crops alive. Authorities say an estimated 1 million people in rural areas will face water shortages.
There has been outrage in Greece after 3 bears, one of which was still nursing her babies, have been killed in the past month. All 3 crimes were committed in a protected area near Florina, in the country's northwest.
By putting the matter out in the open, as well as by mobilising the authorities, we hope this will put an end to this criminal action. And it's good that such actions no longer go unpunished. So the perpetrators, or those who carry out such criminal actions against an animal, which is protected by Greek and European legislation, stop such activities. And of course, everyone will be aware that such actions do not go unpunished.
Environmentalists say the bears could have been killed for illegible biodiversity reasons.
We do not believe that it's fear per se. The killing of the bears could be seen as a preventative action that was taken, not to damage agricultural or livestock capital, which is even more disturbing and infuriating.
There are at least 700 brown bears living in the wild in Greece. The protected species roams the forests and mountains in the north. Greece's Deputy Environment and Energy Minister says the ministry is in direct cooperation with the Greek police to resolve the cases. We will do everything in our power to protect the mammal's population. The bears were shot with a firearm. One leaves behind now orphaned young. A total of 4 bears have been killed so far this year. Environmental groups fear the killings will not only continue, but lead to the deaths of more protected species.